Hey there, here's Thiago, the host of this podcast. Today is the 200th episode of The Wannabe Entrepreneur. And I normally don't get excited about these things. For instance, I obviously already crossed the 100th episode and I didn't care too much. But for some reason, this time, 200 just seemed such a crazy number. 200 episodes in the last 9 months. It's been a crazy journey, and I shared it on Twitter. A lot of people are congratulating me. But for me, it felt easy. And I think that when you're truly in love about what you're doing, it's easy. You it doesn't take effort to do something. It just time and goes by, and I just want to keep on doing this and keep on releasing episodes. There was never a day when I woke up not wanting to record an episode. And today I was about to release another interview, a super great one that I had with Jakob. But someone gave me a great surprise. Two of the oldest listeners of the Wannabe Entrepreneur, I spoke about them, Luisa and Wolfie, they decided to get together and record their own version of the Wannabe Entrepreneur. Their idea was to give me a Slack. They remembered the last time, or when I had COVID recently, and I still kind of forced myself to release an episode. They wanted to give me a break. So they got together and recorded this adaptation of the Wannabe Entrepreneur, a 20 minutes version. I will share it with you in an instance. I just want to say that people are amazing. Since I started this journey, I met such great, amazing people, entrepreneurs, bootstrappers. And we often expect the worst from people, especially when we travel or when we don't know them, because that's what we see on the news. We assume that everyone is bad, but in reality, bad news just travel faster than good news. Most people are amazing. And if we also think about what's happening now in the world with Ukraine and Russia, that's terrible. But most people in Ukraine and Russia, they are nice people. It's not their fault. It's just when there are bad people around, even if there are few, they just ruin everything for everyone. But I just want to say this. I'm really thankful for all the listeners that have been supporting this podcast, that have been supporting my entrepreneur journey. It's definitely a hard one. It's probably one of the hardest things you can do in your professional career. But if you are surrounded with friends and like minded people, it definitely makes a difference. Thank you so much, Luisa and Wolfie, for recording this episode. It's a great one. It was super fun. I did not pay them to do this. They spoke quite a bit about the WB space. They are also members, but it's quite fun. I hope you enjoyed it. And the normal interview that was scheduled for today will then be released on Saturday, and it's also a great one. And I would love for you to listen to it. So, yeah, Luisa, Wolfie, take it away.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Wannabe Entrepreneur, the podcast about what it's really like to bootstrap a company.
This is not a new voice of Thiago, as you can hear.
This is Luisa and
Wolfie.
Who are you? Why are you doing this podcast instead of Thiago today?
That's a good question, because you sent me an invite and now I'm sitting here with you doing a podcast that should somehow, I don't know, it was your idea. You can explain that.
I certainly will. I became a member of the Wannabe Entrepreneur community after listening to Thiago's daily podcast, because you had posted that on Facebook, if I remember correctly. And it was episode 61 about when to terminate a side project.
You even remember the number. That's crazy.
I have shared this so often that I know it by heart. Yeah. And this was a lot of episodes before. And in one of the episodes when Thiago was not feeling very well because he was sick, then I decided it would maybe be a great idea to have a backup episode which he could air whenever he needs it.
Okay, and that's what we are creating here, right?
Yes, that's why I invited you, Wolfie, because you are another of those very early listeners.
Yeah, I started with the first episode, I guess, and since then, yeah, I'm listening to it. Thiago has always this structure, right, of the episodes, this 3 sections. What are the sections?
He is sharing the profile, the project updates. Then he is sharing the lifestyle of an entrepreneur and some tips and tricks for bootstrappers. I don't know the correct order, but these are the 3 sections.
Okay, so we have to adhere to this structure. So what should we start with?
I guess the fact that we're doing this would actually be a nice way to talk about tips and tricks for bootstrappers, because when you're a solo entrepreneur or when you're creating a company all on your own without financial support, how can you get support? How can you make sure that you actually can manage?
So we can combine that already with the lifestyle of an entrepreneur, right? So lifestyle of an entrepreneur is super difficult. You have to create your episodes so that you can publish 2 episodes every week, which is a lot of work. We are sitting here already for, I guess, 4 hours now, just doing the intro.
This is not about fake news, but yeah, it has taken us some time to get ready for the recording.
So yeah, lifestyle is super, super tricky. And that's why we are here creating this episode for Thiago, a backup episode. But what did Thiago do to have such good friends who are doing that?
I'll come back to your question. Actually, while you were saying that, I was thinking, because my first intention was like, okay, maybe Thiago is in some bad or difficult situation, or he's actually sick again or so, and then he would be grateful for having this episode. But
wait, does it mean that we are not allowed to make fun about him here because it's a bad situation or something like that?
I was about to say this is a totally pessimistic view, because maybe he just wants to take a day off sailing, or more than a day off sailing, or
I'm pretty sure he's hanging out on a boat right now.
Definitely we hope the best.
Of course we do.
So you wanted to know how he did this to have such supportive members of his community. Well, in your case, I think that the story is a little bit different, because you know him already from collaborating at your former company, so you were working very closely together.
Yeah, he was always this guy who wanted to create new features. He had new ideas, and it was always a problem with the business leads, because they weren't very happy with this approach to try out new things all the time. So he was definitely already kind of an entrepreneur back in the days at Trivago, and that was sometimes a problem as well. But I think it was definitely clear that he will end up somewhere in the entrepreneur space where he has the freedom to create exactly those solutions that he has in mind.
So you already were able to observe this drive that he is having, leading him from one idea to the other and making him pivot.
Of course, but maybe I'm just smarter now, looking back.
Okay, so in retrospect, you came to this conclusion. Yeah, also interesting that you say it was a problem, actually, because I think nowadays really a lot of companies start to leverage the entrepreneurial spirit. So they even have created spaces where people can work on their ideas.
At least they promote that. I don't know if it's really like that. And it wasn't a huge problem, but at the end, most of the companies, they want to have employees who just do their work, and usually there is a lot of work to do. And if you have then some, what is the correct term for Freigeist in English?
I don't know.
Then it's a German lesson as well, Freigeist. So the people who really want to live this spirit of freedom.
Lingui says something about free spirit. I also know this feeling, you know, I work at the university where, well, sometimes structures can be rather old-fashioned. That's why I love projects so much. So we have a lot of projects where we get external funding, and they have a time limit, but you always have to be a bit innovative and start something new. So I really use this for my crazy ideas. And then there are the side projects where I can play around and find things out. But apart from that, yeah, there seems still to be a difference between someone who really wants to bootstrap their own company and people liking to pursue new ideas. So you have been working at companies, at universities, but also pursuing your own ideas, even with your own companies. Do you see a difference, or have you identified who are the people who actually go for their own startups as opposed to people who just like to pursue new ideas and maybe try something out?
So I think there are definitely two types of developers. I can just say that about developers or tech people. And you have those people who have crazy ideas all the day and they want to try out new things. And then you have people who really want to focus on a problem. They are also happy if they get the input, what they should solve. So they're kind of workers, but they're really good in that. So you have definitely those two categories. I mean, you have in reality more categories, but if you want to just categorize people into two categories, but that doesn't mean that all those people who have good ideas that they will end up in the entrepreneurial world. I don't think that there's a correlation. This is a different world if you leave the security of being an employee, and that what Thiago did, I think, is not very easy to step. And a lot of people, they have their side project next to the work. I think that's quite common, and people are creative besides their job. But really being an entrepreneur, quitting the job, that's, I think, a huge step, and that's not very common nowadays. Maybe a bit more because you earn a lot as a developer and then you have some savings, and that's of course helpful if you have a longer runway to try out things. But still, it is a huge step, and it's definitely not that easy what Thiago, for example, did.
Yeah, it seems to be like a trend, but maybe I'm biased. Definitely I think in his podcast, Thiago is really super honest with the listeners and with the community. And that's also kind of an approach which I guess not all of the podcasters and bootstrappers share. He's really showing his vulnerability and being super open. And in the same time, he has identified that he would not want to do it all on himself. So he's working on his own projects, but he still is first of all looking for mentorship and exchange. And then he has even created the wannabe entrepreneur community. For me, it was kind of a surprise when he actually did it. But
why was it a surprise for you?
Yeah, well, I was like, oh, another project. How will this work out? But back then I was not getting the idea that you need to have all of these different projects and to actually make something out of it at the end. So I was still thinking, okay, you have to pursue one project and then you go for the other. And maybe this was basically because I know for myself, when I try to pursue too many different things, that I kind of lose track. But definitely I'm doing this with a totally different approach. It's all side projects, and I just have to make sure that the dive club is running and that I can proceed with my flamenco choreography. And it's more about making sure that the resources are distributed in a good way. I don't make money out of any of those activities.
So the first time when Thiago told me about this, about the community, and that he wants to sell the access to the community, I couldn't believe that somebody pays money for getting access to a Slack group. That was a bit weird, and I didn't understand it, to be honest, back in the days. By the way, you were the first paying member, right, of the podcast, or supporter. It wasn't a member back in the days.
I'm not sure if I was the first, but one of the first.
And then a lot of people followed you, and now there are a lot of people paying for the community, and it's a great community. And so you're a quite active member, Luisa, from the beginning on. So what is the value for you that you get out of the community? Why are you that active?
Okay, so in the community, there are all kind of opportunities. So recently we have identified what I'm doing today channel to be the most used channel. And here the value for me is really for myself to define actually what I'm going to do on this day. And this is a moment where I can reflect on the day. And it's actually an interesting moment. Theoretically, I could also post this on Twitter, but it's definitely nicer to post it in a community where it's not for everyone. I can share different kind of things. And apart from that, there are other great channels where there are the channels about asking for advice and victories and frustrations and the learnings where, well, we are kind of following our own project. So we see where people are going, what they're trying to find out, and we can really use this knowledge within the community, the network. So you are working on something and you have experience, but that's not totally public. So it's not on your member page, but when someone posts a question, you can react to that.
The interesting thing about those questions for me is that you always get an answer.
Yeah.
Because if I tweet something and if I don't have a lot of followers, like thousands of followers, usually I don't get an answer or just one useless answer. But in the community, I think you always get an answer because they're super active people. It's a smaller community and you get a way more value out of a question if you post it there. And I think that's a huge difference to Twitter.
On Twitter, sometimes people are like using an answer to market their own product or so. So it's not that the free. So when you answer the question in the community, there's no right or wrong. So it's super open, no judgment. People come up with also quite some unusual answers, but there's always a value in it.
And you have a lot of different people in this community, different backgrounds, different knowledge, which is also quite nice because if you think about it, it's not that many people, but already with I don't know how many there are at the moment, and it depends when the episode is aired. But
so at some moment there were 70.
You have 70 people. Not everybody is super active, of course, but you have already in those 70 people, you have designers, you have a lot of entrepreneurs, of course, you have business people, you have product people, you have developers, different technologies, languages, front-end people, back-end people, people from academia. So already there you have a super diverse group, and this group can be also really valuable for a project or for questions that you have. And I think that's really the added value of this community. And when Thiago told me that he wants to create this community, I didn't think about that, and I didn't believe that this can work out, but apparently it did, and now I'm quite happy to be part of it.
Yeah, and actually what you're describing is even valuable to someone like me. I don't need to develop any product, and I rarely am involved in some coding, so to say.
I forgot your category. What is your category?
I don't have a category.
Okay.
My category is she is there commenting on everything. And actually for me, it's a perfect opportunity to also change my perspectives. And this is what I totally love and I think is crucial for what I do and also a bit what I am as a personality. Yeah, just see, okay, this is what people are discussing. Sometimes it's about technology. Sometimes it's about productivity. We are discussing marketing, but we are also discussing really like the lifestyle of an entrepreneur question. So the mental health questions, the how you can take breaks. So how to avoid getting totally addicted to Twitter. So I'm really happy that when I started the Tweet 100 challenge already in my first week, I remember Thiagos' episode on the dark side of Twitter and decided to automate it right away. So this is all kind of things that I would never have come up with.
And I just had a look. There is already a new member today.
Nice. So did we say hello already?
I didn't.
Yeah, your job is to come in when someone needs a specific advice or is doing a project where you can share your experience. And
yeah, I'm definitely not the guy who posts the daily schedule or something like that in the Slack channel. No.
Which category do you like best then?
Let me have a quick look. I have an opinion on everything, so looking for advice is definitely a category that is for me because I can always give my 2 cents. That's perfect. Feedback is usually also a good channel. Victories and frustrations can be quite useful. And there's also this Today I Learned channel, which I really like to use and also to post stuff, but also just to read what people found. It's like a very well curated mini Twitter, so to say, this section.
And we haven't mentioned the super special channels yet. Do you do the random coffees?
No.
Yeah, I have stopped doing them because I'm overwhelmed with getting my things done at the moment, but I love the idea of random coffees.
What I'm using now, or what I try to use a bit more often now, is the break room with this timer that Thiago added, because I complained about this, that whenever I'm in a break room with Thiago, it ends up with having at least 1 hour conversation.
So you do a coaching session right away instead of just having a...
Yeah, whatever is always super interesting, and we have a super long discussion or conversation, and at the end I spent too much time, to be honest. And then Thiago created this timer so that you can say, okay, I want to do a 15 minutes break, and everybody's informed about the 15 minutes, and the timer informs you after 15 minutes, okay, now you have to stop. And that's what I really like, and I have started to do a bit more or to use a bit more those break rooms.
So you like more the break room than the virtual office room?
I never used the working room, so where you work together. I can't do that. I'm not the person for that. I think you're doing that more often, right?
Yeah, I actually like it because you have someone making sure that you work for the 25 minutes in the Pomodoro timer. By the way, I started using Pomodoro after having read your blog article on that very long time ago.
Yeah, we can definitely put this to the show notes. I'm pretty sure. Or Thiago will put that to the show notes, right? Do we have to create the show notes as well? I mean, we already created the episode.
I don't know. We could make a short suggestion for the show notes.
Okay.
They're not that extensive in Thiago's.
Okay, Thiago will figure
episodes.
it out. I mean, it at the end, it was kind of a big advertisement for Thiago's community now, right? It was not planned like that.
That's no problem, because that was the reason why we're doing that. We like the community very much. It brings us extra value. We have fun there. It's interesting. And at least I am really looking forward how it's going to develop further.
Yeah, so the main thing is that Thiago is happy on the boat right now. I'm pretty sure he's on a sailing boat.
Yeah.
And that we filled the spot at least. If you're already annoyed by our voices, then the next episode you will have your good old host back again.
Yeah. So continuity, we're just a little side gig.
And we hope that we could give Thiago a bit of time, however he used it.
Yeah. Marketing blog, if you want to hear our voices, both of us have created a podcast too.
Yeah, but I have just a German podcast at the moment. So you have the English
and
one.
Mine is just for international students in Passau.
But we can also put the links to the show notes.
Thank you so much, Wolfi, for hopping on this train.
Yeah, thanks for the really good idea. You have to do the official, this was another blah, blah, blah.
Ah, yeah.
You have to do that.
I didn't write it down. Okay. This was another episode of the Wannabe Entrepreneur, the podcast about what it's really like to bootstrap a company, special edition with Wolfi and Luise to give Thiago a break.
Wait, and then there's always if you want to become a member, you're not very well prepared.
Well, that you can do that.
Yeah, if you want to become a member of this great, super cool, nice community, and also to support the podcast, you can go to an address we will add to the show notes. I'm not good with names and addresses. And then you can spend some money. I also don't know exactly how much it is.
We don't know. Maybe it changes.
And then you will be also part of this cool community. And usually you can also try it out and get your money back if you're not happy with us in the community.
If you want to support the podcast, you can buy Thiago a coffee on the Buy Me a Coffee platform. And then there is the monthly payment. It's not too much to become a member of the community.
Exactly. Enjoy your day, and hopefully we see you soon in the introduction channel.
You'll see, we're gonna get back to you soon.